we could pare it down a bit with. And it sounds like we almost can bank on the liaison revenues for the police department. And it will be probably not until after we've set the levy that we're going to have anything firm on what the results were from the Taste of Maplewood. And so we'll have to defer that vote and any potential budget impact. But of course, since this is the preliminary levy, we can always adjust it further down as more data comes in, but we can't go the opposite direction. And so I would like to see the number, the percentage increase more like 2%. Perhaps not even as low as Chuck was suggesting. I'd be okay leaving the squad cars in until there was more visibility, for example. But I do think that I would rather see us phasing in some of the sustainable things on the medical thing. And there's a lot, we can have that debate for a very long time with all the ins and outs of that, but that's my first blush view on it.
Anybody have any comments on that? I would guess that I would agree with the 2% type of thing that John put out. You know, we don't want to set a maximum levy that is the bottom line because we're going to be going through the next few months and there's going to be stuff that's going to come up. Just like in the last couple of months when we've been doing this, the numbers change because there's new things to consider. And so I think that we want to make some adjustments, and I guess, you know, if Gail says we shouldn't be cutting the squad cars, we shouldn't be cutting the squad cars, so that'd be my approach. And John's ideas are fine with me. Quite frankly, Chuck's were fine with me, even if we took out the squad cars. But
Council, if the 2%, if that's the number, we wanted to get down in no specifics. If that's your number, I would note that Mr. Nephew's suggestions, if I totaled them up, were more than what I suggested. So they were $312,000. I suggested $296,000. So if you want to take my suggestions or Mr. Nephew's suggestions, either one, and then add the squad cars back in there, we've got more than enough to bring it back to you. We'll be under the 2% with our final recommendation.
well, I would guess, and I would guess that for setting the maximum levy, that as John said, I would rather be up around 2%. And then, you know, with you realizing that we want to keep looking and figuring it out, but with the the realization that stuff might happen. And we, you know, want to have the opportunity to fund the Taste of Maplewood if we decide we want to fund it. And so we can't set it at the bottom, at least not the maximum. Anybody disagree with that approach? Oh, you guys don't want us to do that. Okay. And their lights are on. Jim?
I would be in favor of setting the maximum levy at about 3.5%, shooting for a 2% goal. But beyond that, but because I think there are some things that are still unknown, we're still trying to figure out. And I think if we're shooting for that range, that we can certainly pare down and go towards the 2%. I know you're never going to vote for anything at about 3%. We heard that loud and clear, Cheerios. But
That's his new nickname.
But
like
we can't.
I got to get him a dish.
We can't. We have to have a little bit of room. I mean, I understand where we're trying to be. I believe we should be at 2%, but there are some things that are a little unclear for me still. So I think we could. That would be mine. I don't know where you're at, Kathy. But.
Kathy?
Not wanting to tarnish my reputation as that spendthrift woman on the council, I'm still fine with 3.
John?
I just do want to add, again, since we had so much fun talking about market value homestead credit, that when we think about these numbers, for example, Jim, if we said we should go with 3.5, that's about like as though we were going to 5.5 in terms of the impact on property tax payers. And that's one of the reasons I think that well, anyway. So I want to make sure that we keep that in mind because the numbers sound lower than, they look smaller than, it's like those mirrors. You can't trust the scale.
Marv, where you at?
I like John's advice.
Okay. So,
That looked
Oh,
like,
my God.
that looked like it hurt, didn't it?
My hair kind of went
I think that's the best we're going to be able to do. You've got a poll that you can work with and decide how that works for you. All right, is anything else? All right, we're adjourned at 9 o'clock. And I was going to note one thing, or two things. Mr. Lannis arrived at 5:30 for the record. And then also, you may remember that on September